It's midnight and you're tuned into Nightline with me, Muhammed, Ahmad, Hamdan. The top stories. Prime Minister to meet all PHailing firms over low rate for food delivery riders. And remainder of the Good Vibes Festival cancelled over UK banned vulgar conduct. Good morning. Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim will meet all delivery operators in a week's time to resolve issues pertaining to the low commission rate received by PHailing riders. The Prime Minister said he wants a clear explanation directly from the companies on the issue, which PHailing riders said had become a burden.
Saya akan jumpa pejabat Perdana Menteri. Bagi saya tempoh 1 minggu, saya tetapkan masa, saya jumpa dia. Saya nak sampaikan pandangan saudara bahawa rate itu terlalu rendah.
Datuk Sri Anwar said this in response to a query by a PHailing rider who informed the Prime Minister that their order fees have now been reduced from 7 ringgit per order to less than 5 ringgit. Speaking during a question and answer session at the Temu Anwar Selangor X Belia PHailing dialogue, the Prime Minister said to also ensure all of the riders' problems are channeled to the right platform, he has allocated 1 million ringgit to establish a formal committee for the riders in an effort to ensure the welfare of workers in the industry is taken care of.
Untuk bantu anak-anak yang dalam gig rider throughout the country yang kebanyakan di Lembah Kelang, saya peruntukkan permulaan kepada informal secretariat untuk selaras kerja gig rider ini, so that dia tak boleh one off, dia bagi pandangan habis.
He added that delivery riders can also choose a party they deem suitable to be appointed as the secretariat to represent them in the committee. The event at Laman MBPJ, attended by caretaker Selangor Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Amiruddin Syahri, saw about 5,000 PHailing riders given the opportunity to ask questions and offer their views on the country's PHailing industry to the Prime Minister. Earlier on Saturday morning, Datuk Sri Anwar lashed out at certain quarters who had called the Prime Minister's recent visit to Vietnam a holiday. He stressed that as a newly appointed Prime Minister, it is imperative to take steps to strengthen bilateral relations with other ASEAN countries.
Kita punya tugas. Malaysia ini negeri penting di ASEAN. Kita mana-mana pemimpin baru mesti jelajah santuni semua negeri-negeri ASEAN. Janganlah bandingkan dulu. Dulu jemputan berkurang. Janganlah cemburu. Saya jemputan itu ikut tiap minggu.
The Prime Minister was speaking at the Rural Entrepreneurs Mini Carnival and Sentuhan Kasih Desa Selangor program at Sungai Besar Stadium in Sabak Bernam. Also present was Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, who is also Rural and Regional Development Minister. In his speech, the Prime Minister also said that the unity government will not allow any rural community in the country to be left out. Datuk Seri Anwar said the government is always looking for ways to improve the dignity and status of the people so that they are able to live more comfortably and enjoy quality education and healthcare services. He said to achieve it, a mechanism is needed to improve the quality of the rural entrepreneurs' products so that they can be more competitive. Moving on, the remainder of the Good Vibes Festival has been cancelled following a controversial incident involving UK band the 1975, which has now been blacklisted from performing in Malaysia. Communication and Digital Minister Datuk Fahmi Fazil, in confirming the development, said that the unity government's stance on the matter was clear, which is not to compromise with any party that challenges, disparages and violates Malaysian law. In a Facebook post, Fahmi said he had ordered for the festival to be cancelled following a meeting with the concert's organisers earlier on Saturday, where he also urged them to identify a mechanism to compensate ticket holders for the 3-day festival. He said that while the government is always committed to supporting the development of the creative industry and freedom of expression, he warned that artists must refrain from hurting the sensitivities of the community, especially those that go against local customs and values. Meanwhile, the Central Agency for Application for Filming and Performance by Foreign Artists, or PHailing, which is the agency under the ministry responsible for approving foreign artist permits, said the 1975 has been blacklisted from performing in Malaysia. PHailing also said it has filed a police report against the artists and the event organisers for negligence and failure to comply with the conditions it set out. At the same time, PHailing will provide a list of improvements to regulations for the approval of performances by foreign artists by next week. The first day of the three-day concert at Sepang International Circuit on Friday saw the 1975 lead singer Matty Healy criticise Malaysia's LGBT laws before kissing his male bandmate. Healy, who appeared intoxicated, was seen performing on stage while holding a bottle of wine, lighting a cigarette and spitting on the stage, as well as dropping remarks about not being in the mood to perform in between songs. After performing the first song, he snatched the organizer's drone camera that flew above the concert-goers and onto the stage before smashing the device onto the ground and destroying it. 7 individuals were reported to be safe following a helicopter crash in the Uni KL Miat Hangar apron area near the Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport in Subang. In the incident at 11:52 a.m. on Saturday, Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia CAAM Chief Executive Officer Captain Norazman Mahmud said the Leonardo SPA AW189 helicopter with the registration number 9MBOF was undergoing a flight test with 3 fire and rescue department personnel and 4 flight engineers on board when the crash occurred. Initial reports indicated that the helicopter was in the process of landing when it crashed. The Airport Fire and Rescue Service responded immediately after the Subang Air Control Tower received a report of the accident. All 7 crash victims were sent to the Tunku Ampuan Rahimah Hospital, Klang, for further treatment. An investigation will be conducted by the Transport Ministry's Air Accident Investigation Bureau in accordance with Part 26 of the Civil Aviation Regulations 2016. The Education Ministry MOE plans to expand the number of vocational colleges and programs offered to provide more students with vocational education due to the high employability of its graduates in the job market. Its Minister Fadlina Sidek said that there are currently 86 vocational colleges nationwide which produce an average of 10,000 graduates annually. Fadlina said that a total of 76,121 graduates have successfully completed their studies over the past 7 years, and 99% of them had no difficulties in securing employment opportunities. She also said a synergy between the ministry and industry players was needed to strengthen technical and vocational education and training (TVET). She added that this was the kind of education system the country strived for, where graduates not only have the necessary skills but also good marketability. Fadlina also stressed that TVET was no longer considered a last resort, as TVET graduates have contributed significantly to the country's development and economic growth, with some even secured jobs overseas. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub has successfully undergone surgery for brain hemorrhage at the Sultanah Bahia Hospital in Alor Star, Kedah on Saturday morning. Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said 2 neurosurgeons had briefed him that Datuk Sri Salahuddin's condition is now relatively stable and he has been placed under post-operative care and supervision in the hospital's intensive care unit ICU.
Dia sekarang istilahnya di intubated. Pos pembedahan itu bermaksud dia diberikan sokongan, ya. Bermaksud diletak di bawah pengawasan. Tapi disebut doktor tadi dari sudut BP-nya, dari sudut kadar oksigennya, dari segi rate, ya, apa dipanggil rate dan sebagainya, itu tunjukkan keadaan yang terkawal dan positif. Jadi boleh kita istilahkan sebagai stabil.
Speaking to the media after visiting Datuk Seri Salahuddin following his surgery at the hospital on Saturday, the Pakatan Harapan Secretary General also urged everyone to pray for his cabinet colleagues' full recovery. The Amanah Deputy President was in Kedah and had attended several programs, but was rushed to the hospital at about 10 p.m. on Friday night after experiencing nausea and vomiting. He was later diagnosed as having brain hemorrhage by specialist doctors. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa bin Shah said the government must double its efforts to continue strengthening and modernizing the Malaysian Armed Forces MAF. The King, who is also the MAF Supreme Commander, said this was necessary as the world was witnessing a clash between traditional global superpowers and the emergence of new ones. Speaking at the passing out parade and commissioning of MAF cadet officers for the year 2023 at Camp Perdana Sungai Besi, Kuala Lumpur on Saturday, Al-Sultan Abdullah said these calls were meant for the establishment of a credible, high-tech armed forces that can face various threats. Also gracing the event was Raja Permaisuri Agong Tunku Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria. In his royal address, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong also called on the government to focus on the welfare and well-being of the MAF fraternity and their families. Al-Sultan Abdullah also noted and appreciated the government's noble intentions to build and upgrade housing and other facilities for the MAF. The King also said that the plight of MAF veterans must continue to be championed and that they must be given the necessary help required, as their blood, sweat and tears must always be remembered and honoured by the nation. North Korea fires several cruise missiles into sea. This and more after the breather. Don't go away. Front. Cambodia will hold an election on Sunday that is almost certain to be won by the ruling Cambodian People's Party, CPP, of Prime Minister Hun Sen, extending its nearly 4-decade grip on power. Hun Sen, one of the world's longest ruling leaders, has indicated his eldest son and anointed successor, Hun Manet, might take over as soon as next month in a surprise revelation just days out from a one-sided election. It had been widely expected that the 45-year-old Hun Manet would take over from his father, but no time frame had previously been given. Hun Sen also said that CPP has sufficient capabilities to lead the country to progress, especially to maintain political stability and development. The National Election Committee, NEC, said 18 political parties will contest in Sunday's election for the 125 seats in the National Assembly, where more than 9.7 million people are eligible to cast their ballots. North Korea on Saturday has fired several cruise missiles towards the sea to the west of the Korean peninsula after suggesting that the docking of the Kentucky in South Korea could be grounds for a nuclear attack. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff JCS said the launches were detected beginning at 4 a.m. local time and that both South Korean and U.S. intelligence authorities were analyzing the launches while monitoring signs of additional activities. The missile launches come as Seoul and Washington ramp up defense cooperation in the face of growing tensions with the North, including joint U.S. and South Korean military exercises with advanced stealth jets and new rounds of nuclear contingency planning meetings. However, South Korea's defense ministry on Friday described the deployment of Kentucky and the nuclear contingency planning meetings between Washington and Seoul as defensive response measures to counter the North Korean threat. In Hong Kong, the government on Saturday has begun strengthening radiation inspections of seafood imports from Japan amid rising concerns over a plan to release treated radioactive water from the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant. Chief Executive John Lee met with Japan's Consul General to reiterate his concerns over the water release plan, saying he's primarily concerned about maintaining food safety and public health in Hong Kong. He added that Hong Kong's current ban on shipments from one prefecture would definitely be expanded, as the Japanese government has confirmed that some shipments of Japanese seafood have been held up at China's customs. The Hong Kong government has said that it would continue to maintain close communication with Japan and closely monitor the situation. However, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi, who has accused China of disseminating incorrect information, has urged Beijing to deal with the matter from a scientific standpoint. Greece on Saturday has faced its hottest July weekend in 50 years, with temperatures forecasted to soar above 40 degrees Celsius, while a record-breaking heat wave stretching across the southern United States was expected to expand in the coming days. Sunday is likely to see the city labor under as much as 44 degrees Celsius, with the central region of Thessalia enduring 45 degrees Celsius. Government ministries have advised people to work from home where possible and not to venture out unnecessarily. The exceptional temperatures also mean key tourism sites will be closed during the hottest part of the day. Meanwhile, in southern U.S., about 80 million Americans are sweltering in temperatures of 41 degrees Celsius and above this weekend. The country's worst heat of up to 46 degrees Celsius is forecast for Phoenix, Arizona, which has seen a record-breaking 3 weeks in a row of highs above 43 degrees Celsius. JDT lift FA Cup title for second consecutive time. Sports after this breather. Football, the 2023 FA Cup. Johor Darul Takzim JDT on Saturday night retained their title after beating KL City 2-0 in the final at Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri, Johor. The clash between JDT and KL City remained goalless at half-time, despite the hosts dominating the game, and the Southern Tigers eventually got the lead in the 66th minute when midfielder Nathaniel Shio Hong Wan scored his first ever goal for the club. Leandro Velasquez doubled the score for JDT in the 74th minute, slotting home from close range thanks to KL City's poor defensive clearance. The hosts held on to their lead to claim their second title of the season. With the win, JDT managed to defend the title they won last year when they beat Kedah 3-1. And on to tennis now, the 2023 Swiss Open. Spain's Albert Ramos Vinolas advanced to his 12th ATP Tour level final of his career and his first of the year after beating Serbian Miomir Kecmanovic. The 35-year-old defeated the second-seeded Kecmanovic with a straight sets 6-2, 6-3 victory. The Spaniard dictated throughout the 1-hour 32-minute clash at the ATP 250 clay court event, breaking Kecmanovic's serve 6 times and outlasting the Serbian with his heavy ground strokes. With his 10th tour-level win of the season, Ramos Vinolas will face Argentine Pedro Cachin for a chance to win his 5th ATP tour-level title. Earlier, Cachin continued his impressive run by dispatching of Serbian Hamad Medadovic 6-3, 6-1 to advance to his maiden ATP Tour level final. The Argentine had also overcome the top seed Roberto Bautista Agut on his way to the semi-finals and leapfrogged 22 places to settle on number 68 in the ATP rankings. Drugs worth more than 18 million ringgit seized. Don't go away. Datuk Seri Amiruddin Harun will remain as the Negeri Sembilan Menteri Besar if Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional retains a state in the August 12 state elections. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, who is also Pakatan Harapan chairman, said the decision to retain the incumbent MB was reached after a discussion with BN chairman Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi.
Setelah menyampaikan pandangan kita kepada Presiden UMNO Pengerusi Barisan Nasional Datuk Seri Zahid Hamidi, saya menekankan bahawa untuk kelangsungan kerja, kesinambungan dan rekod prestasi Saudara Amiruddin Harun itu memuaskan, wajar kita pertahankan beliau selaku Menteri Besar.
Speaking at PKR's candidate announcement in Shah Alam on Saturday night, he added that Datuk Sri Amiruddin Syahri would also continue to lead Selangor as Menteri Besar if the PHBN coalition wins the state. Datuk Sri Anwar, who is also PKR president, said that the decision was made due to the performance of the two party leaders as Menteri Besar in their respective states. Both Datuk Sri Amiruddin and Datuk Sri Aminuddin and Datuk Sri Amiruddin Syahri will defend the Sikamat and Sungai Tua state seats respectively. Meanwhile, Datuk Sri Anwar also said that DAP's move to retain Chow Kon Yeow as Pulau Pinang Chief Minister was welcomed by PKR. Nominations for the 6 state polls are set to take place on July 29th, while early voting is scheduled for August 8th.
And you're watching Money Matters.
Money Matters is going to be back after the break.
Don't go away, because Money Matters will be back shortly.
For the past half an hour, you've been with us on Money Matters.
I'm Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah, and this is Money Matters.
Money Matters with Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah, Azaria Tagaya, Muhammad Ahmad Hamdan, and Anita Wu, Saturdays at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
In other news, 4 bodies believed to be among the 8 crew members of MV Tongsung, which capsized in the waters of Pulau Burong in Sebuyau, Sarawak last Wednesday, have been recovered on Saturday. Sarawak Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency MMEA Director, First Admiral Maritime Zin Azman Mat Yunus said their identities have yet to be ascertained. According to Zin Ahmad, during the search and rescue SAR operations, which entered its 3rd day, the agency had received a report from fishermen who found 3 bodies floating about 15 nautical miles northeast of Pulau Burong at 1:15 p.m. Based on the information, the MMEA mobilized its vessel KM Kota Kinabalu to the location to retrieve the bodies. At about 5:20 p.m, the ship found another body while conducting a patrol in the search sector. All the bodies found were not wearing life jackets and were sent to the Sarawak General Hospital for identification. Zin Ahmad also said the SAR operations for the remaining 4 missing victims would be expanded and focus on the areas where the bodies were found. It was reported that the ship was believed to have capsized following strong waves and wind on Wednesday. The 8 crew members are between 20 and 52 years old, 3 of whom are locals from Cebu, identified as Chiang Siu Nye, Wong Hua Wu and Stimba Anak Chuit. 4 more victims are Myanmar nationals, namely Tat Min Julai, Yi Lin Tet, La Win Tun, Tun Lin U, and another is an Indonesian, Lido Ali Purwanto. And lastly, the Customs Department foiled an attempt by an international syndicate to smuggle drugs worth 18.2 million ringgit at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport KLIA Air Cargo Complex in Sepang on July 18th. Its director, Datuk Zazuli Johan, said the syndicate had declared the drugs as car accessories to avoid detection by authorities. According to Datuk Zazuli, the seizure comprised a total of 18 boxes, with 12 containing transparent plastic packages of suspected methylene dioxymethamphetamine, or MDMA, weighing over 232 kilograms. It was the largest haul by the department involving type 3 and 4 MDMA, which can produce about 1.5 tons of ecstasy. A box was also found containing a plastic package with white crystalline powder suspected to be ketamine, weighing more than 20.5 kilograms, while the other 5 boxes held car brake discs. Initial investigation found the items were imported from a country in Europe and that the drug supply was intended for the domestic market. Datuk Zazuli added the importer had used a false declaration in the importation document, making it difficult to arrest the individual. The department is currently tracking down the suspect, believed to be a local, and the case was being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act. And that concludes Nightline this time around. As we wrap up, let's take a look as Moscow's Bolshoi Ballet, previously grounded by COVID-19 and then shunned in the West since Russia's military campaign in Ukraine, returns to international touring next week for the first time since the pandemic with a trip to Beijing. With that, I'm Muhammed Ahmad Hamdan. Thanks for watching and take care.